Hi guys, and welcome to the Gillingham vs Sunderland match preview. So Sunderland do go down to Gillingham on Saturday, 3 p.m. kickoff. Of course, as we try to get back to winning ways. Of course, last weekend we didn't have a game, but the weekend before that, we of course got absolutely battered, and rightly so, and fairly so, by Pompey on that swimming pool of a pitch. That of course, I keep saying that both sides had to play in those conditions, but of course, Pompey they just. They took to those conditions a lot better than we did, but for me, I think it's a bit of a fluke result. We just aren't very good at playing football in a pool, whereas they were. So that's the way it is. So as long as it doesn't rain too heavy and the pitch isn't flooded, I think we should be okay, potentially against Gillingham anyway. Not saying it's going to be an easy game, but getting into the preview to this game, of course, Gillingham, they're not doing so well in the league. As of right now, they are in 19th. They've only won 2 games. The last 3, they've actually lost 2-0 in every single one of those games. Granted, against good sides. Last time out, away from home, they lost 2-0 to Wycombe. Before that, they lost 2-0 to Ipswich at home as well, but that was in the Papa John's. Before that, they lost at home to Wigan by 2-0. And before that, they got their latest and last win in the league, which was away from home against Cambridge. And then before that, they didn't have a win for quite some time. It was literally early August, where they got the last win before that, and that was at home against Morecambe. But before that, there's just plenty of draws in there, picking up plenty of losses as well. So it's a really, really indifferent start to the season for Gillingham, and I'll never underestimate them, especially with them being a Steve Evans side. They're generally very organised, and they make it hard to break it down, regardless of what team you've got coming up against them. Like you say with Wycombe, Ipswich, Wigan as well, all good attacking sides. And yes, you might think I'm being a bit patronising, saying that they only conceded 2 against him, but it's the good sides, but they just look so, I think, toothless going forward. I think from what I've seen anyway, and I think that could bode well for us, hopefully anyway. But we are Sunderland. We're a team that we seem to break other teams' ducks. When a team hasn't won in a few games, we come around and we think we know wipe the floor with them. Generally, the case is, as it was with Pompey, we end up getting battered or we quite simply roll over. But hopefully that isn't the case. I don't think it will, personally. Hopefully, I think we do have enough in the tank to get a good result. But for us, this is the thing that worries me. Lee Johnson has stated that there's several, and I mean several, injury worries now. A big one for me, Huggins, which is a massive, massive shame. He's been ruled out for 3 months, the right back. So now we literally only have Winchester who can play right back, and he's not a right back. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's been brilliant this season so far at right back, but I really, really wanted to see him push into the centre of midfield, which is where he belongs. I think he's brilliant there. I would have loved to see Winchester and Dhannoo make and form a partnership there in the middle. It doesn't look like that's going to happen. Winchester's going to remain predominantly in the right back position, which I'm sure he won't complain about. He loves playing for the club. We've seen that in his interviews here and there. So it will be Winchester, I'm presuming, playing at right back. In terms of other injuries, we've got McGeady. He seems to be touch and go. You've got Gooch, still isn't fit. Broadhead still isn't fit. Diaku is potentially not fit, although it's sort of 50-50. Luke O'Nien is okay to play this weekend. Evans, he's got a calf injury, so he's out. So we've got an ever-growing list. I think we've spoke so far this season so much about the strength and depth we've got, and now it's really getting pushed to the test, this strength and depth, because particularly in the attacking third, we're looking very, very light. And as you'll see in my preferred starting 11, it's not necessarily my preferred 11 at all, because some of the players I would like to play simply are injured. So I'll go into my preferred starting 11 and I'll explain my reasoning behind these players. So we start off with Hoffman in goal. He is my number 1 and the club's number 1 right now. Now Sirkin, I believe he is fully fit and okay to start, so he absolutely goes there. He's my number 1 left back as well. Winchester, of course, has solidified his place at right back. For me, Bailey Wright drops back down to the bench because Doyle, I think he's fully fit now, so should be okay, alongside Flanagan, who I believe comes back unscathed from international duty with Northern Ireland. In the middle, I would put Luke O'Nien and Dan Neil. Dan Neil absolutely starts for me every day of the week. Please start this Saturday, and Lee Johnson, do not bench him because I will riot. Now this is where things get a little bit interesting. Now I know I did say that Diaku was sort of touch and go, but he was the sort of one that Lee Johnson kind of alluded to, like it really is sort of 50-50. He could be absolutely fine or he might not make it, whereas the other ones are more sort of 60-40 in favour of not making it. So if Diaku was fit, I would start him purely because the only other option there if Dhannoo isn't fit, and of course the rest of them aren't going to be fit enough, it will be Pritchard. And as I've mentioned in previous videos, he's been so unbelievably poor, in my opinion. So if Dhannoo is fit, I'd like to see him there. O'Brien on the left-hand side, he's a hard worker. He can go up top if we need to go to a sort of 4-4-2. Embo can play on left or right, or tuck him behind the strikers anyway, and can drift inside. So there's a lot of leeway there. O'Brien, he makes lots of space for the likes of Ross Stewart to get in behind, and maybe Embo to make his further runs in behind the strikers as well, or behind the back line. So that would be my sort of starting 11. Of course, Ross Stewart up top as well. But, it would look very different if we had the likes of McGeady in there, and Broadhead as well. He'd probably start for me after looking so good against Wigan. But sadly, we don't really have that depth anymore because they're all injured, which is why you need depth. So that would be my sort of forced hand in a preferred starting 11. And of course, let me know in the comments down below what your starting 11 would be. So yeah, it is an ever-growing injury list, which is very frustrating. And as I alluded to earlier and I mentioned earlier, we spoke so much about strength in depth with the squad, and we really do have strength in depth, but it is, like I say, being put to the test massively. There's so many numbers there up top. McGeady, Gooch, you've got Dhannoo potentially, Broadhead as well. So that's 4 just in the striking department, and on the wings we have very little. You might even go for someone like Ellis Taylor or Wern, who looked decent during the week. So you never know. I highly doubt it, but we are really getting pushed to the limit at the moment, and hopefully they are only really short-term injuries. Of course, we know that Huggins is 3 months, which is absolutely heartbreaking for the lad, because I think he's looked absolutely brilliant. He really has looked brilliant. When I've seen him, he looks so dangerous going forward. Could probably improve a little bit defensively, but going forward he's absolutely fantastic. But yeah, like I say, Winchester will have to continue playing his trade at right back. But in terms of my predictions for this game, Gillingham, they haven't conceded, they haven't scored in the last 3 games against Wycombe, Ipswich and Wigan. I'd like to think we'd be able to keep a clean sheet again as well. I think it'd just be the perfect response to the game against Pompey, where of course we conceded 4 absolutely ridiculous shambles of a display. So I'd like to think we can go back out there and not concede. And I'm going to go for a 4th 2-0 defeat for Gillingham on the trot. So I'm going to go for 2-0. I'm going to go for a Dan Neil goal and a Ross Stewart as well. I know some of you guys in the comments, you do like to know the timings of my predictions. So I'll go for a 25th minute goal from Dan Neil and a 44th minute strike from Ross Stewart. And then I think the second half will be a case of Gillingham trying to get back into the game, but we should hopefully hold out and get away with a 2-0 win. So those are going to be my predictions for the game. What are your predictions? Let me know in the comments down below. But if you have enjoyed this video, please hit the like button for me. It'd be massively appreciated. And subscribe to the channel if you're not already to become a fully fledged member of the Sarny Army. But for now, you take care. Stay jamming.